Hey guys, Adrian here, Critical Impact Group. I want to talk to you for a minute about trigger reset and specifically trigger pinning because it's something I see a lot with shooters. Video I'm going to show you here is actually a couple shooters just in the last week who I ran into who had really bad trigger pinning issues, and it was affecting their speed and their accuracy. So what is trigger pinning? How does it happen? How do we fix it? So first of all, I think the bad habit of trigger pinning comes from improperly teaching trigger reset or putting too much emphasis on trigger reset. All right. Typically, trigger reset is taught because instructors are trying to show students how to be efficient on the trigger, right? The idea is after I press the trigger, I don't need to bring the trigger all the way to its full travel. I certainly don't need to bring my finger off the trigger, right? All I have to do is bring the trigger back until it clicks, right? And we know that unnecessary movement is inefficient. The problem with this, however, is that we're only considering the efficiency of the trigger travel. What we really need to be considering is the efficiency of the shot process. So if we want to make the shot process efficient, what we need to consider is not really how far the trigger has to travel, but whether the trigger is ready to go when the sights are back on target. That's the important part. So what needs to happen is, yes, the trigger needs to be reset. But all of that needs to happen during recoil. Trigger needs to be reset during recoil and then prepped during recoil as well. So as soon as those sights settle onto target, we can confirm, yep, they're good to go. I can send the next shot. I think the way instructors demonstrate trigger reset has a lot to do with how students learn it and why they develop this bad habit, because they do exactly what I'm showing you here. Right? I'm gonna press the trigger to the rear till it goes bang. The gun is gonna cycle during recoil, and then they show you this is my trigger reset. I just let the trigger out till it clicks. So students copy what they see. They just saw you do exactly that, so they start copying it. Plus, you're really spending a lot of time emphasizing the least important part of the trigger pull, or the trigger control, right? The least important part of the trigger control. Yes, the trigger needs to be reset so it can go bang again. But the important part of the trigger press is the actual press, not the reset. So when I'm working with new shooters, whether they're in a law enforcement academy or just private citizens learning to shoot for the first time, I don't even talk about trigger reset, at least until they can demonstrate that they have an understanding of the fundamentals and they can perform them to a reasonable degree. So if every single time when they're just learning to shoot, they take their finger all the way off the trigger, I'm okay with that as long as they're shooting accurately. We can come back and we can address that later. And 99% of the time, after they're hitting the target and they're getting comfortable, all I have to say is, hey, look, you don't need to take your finger all the way off the trigger outside the trigger guard between shots, all right? In fact, at some point, we're gonna start shooting multiple shots, or maybe we are starting to shoot multiple shots, and that's not, helping them right now. So I'll just tell them, hey, all you gotta do, you just have to reset the trigger, during recoil until it clicks. If you go a little too far, it's not a big deal, but all you have to do is you can keep your finger on the trigger, just wait till the trigger clicks, okay? I emphasize, especially as we start shooting faster, that all of that trigger reset and trigger prep needs to happen during recoil. So if you have this bad habit, first of all, what does it do? Number one, it will slow you down. As you see in the videos, right? The gun is recoiling, it's back on target. They should be shooting their next shot. However, they're still resetting their trigger. So it's slow. The other problem is that a lot of times you'll see shooters bang, gun recoils, they bring it back onto target, The sights are there, they're waiting, and they're slowly releasing the trigger. And as soon as they release the trigger, they just mash through it again. So you get this click, bang, click, bang, click, bang. So not only is it slow, but they also tend to push into the gun, and it causes accuracy problems. So if you have this trigger reset problem, this bad habit, how do you fix it? First of all, you have to be aware that you're doing it. So somebody needs to tell you, you need to maybe film yourself, or you just need to start listening for that audible click. If you are shooting, okay, and you hear that bang, okay, and you hear that audible click afterwards, you are probably pinning the trigger for too long. You don't need to be doing that. So as you're shooting, just be aware of that. And every time you hear that, it should be like nails on a chalkboard. You should be like, crap, okay, I did it again. You're gonna have to devote some conscious thought, some conscious energy into breaking that habit. And what you need to tell yourself is reset and prep the trigger during recoil, right? Reset and prep the trigger during recoil. So that means not only bringing the trigger back to where it clicks, but getting some pressure on the trigger too, a little bit, taking up that slack if you had too much slack, and getting a little pressure on that trigger again during recoil. So as soon as those sights settle, you can break that shot again. Now, if you're working on some other things, you're working on your accuracy or different parts of your shooting, and you start focusing on your trigger reset, just understand, like, your accuracy may slip a little bit, right? You can only really consciously think about one aspect of your shooting at a time. So that's okay. Think about fixing your trigger pinning issue, resetting and prepping during recoil between shots. Think about that, get it down, and then, jump your attention back to something else. You may find for a while that old habit starts creeping back again when you catch yourself. You'll hear that click every time you do it now. And that should be, just a reminder, hey, whoop, we got to focus on this, reset and prep during recoil. A great drill for doing this is a doubles drill. I see Ben Stagger shooting them all the time. He's the first person I saw shoot it. And it's just, at a reasonable distance, do it at 7 yards or something like that, 5 yards even, heck. It's just 2 shots almost as fast as you can press the trigger. You got to have a good grip on it. But what I want you to think when you're shooting it is reset and prep during recoil. So if I'm going to fire 2 shots, bang, bang, my shot process doesn't finish after that second bang. It's going to be bang, bang, prep, bang, bang, prep. So I've reset the trigger and I'm getting that trigger prep again and sight picture like I was going to shoot a 3rd shot. So bang, bang, reset, prep, bang, bang, prep, bang, bang, prep, real quick like that. And I found that will help most students overcome that trigger pinning issue. The only exception I will say to trigger pinning is potentially when you're shooting precision rifle. So certainly a bolt gun, it's really not an issue because you have to get your hand off the trigger to rack the bolt anyways. And even with a semi-auto, when our rate of fire is a little bit slower, what I've found is that when we're trying to shoot very small targets, trigger manipulation issues, trigger presses actually can be a bigger problem than with a handgun. Most of the errors I see with handguns aren't actually really from pressing the trigger poorly. It's from moving the hands or the arms. It's a full body flinch, okay? It's not so much just the trigger, but with a precision rifle, yeah, the little bit of bad pressure or side-to-side pressure or bad trigger press actually can make a pretty substantial difference downrange when you're trying to shoot really small targets or targets at long distance. So I found, in my experience, even when shooting with a semi-auto, just a slight pin to the rear just to increase follow through. But we're not doing it all the way through recoil. It's like maybe half a second and it's back on target. You shouldn't be hearing this bang, long pause, click. Okay, it should be bang, click, bang, click. Something a little bit quicker like that, all right? If you have a shooter, if you're having trouble with follow through. So that's the one time that sometimes I will tell students, like, hey, stay on that trigger a little bit longer, make sure you're getting good follow through, make sure that bullet has left the barrel. Let's get on we should be looking for our trace, looking for our impact on target, and then we're resetting the trigger as we're doing that. So that's trigger pinning, that's trigger reset. Again, the efficiency of the trigger stroke, the trigger travel, guys, really doesn't matter a whole lot. What the important part is that the trigger is ready to go when the sights are back on target. If you got any questions or comments, just be sure to drop them below.